Hello and welcome to the Algarve. You might recognise my car if you've already been on this channel, and I thought, you know what would be really nice would be a fleet. That Xanthi is not mine, by the way. No, it's just parked here, and this is where I decided to film. I can't have a fleet because I don't have the money. Speaking of money, have you ever wondered how much it costs to run a Citroen C5 X7 for a year? No, you probably haven't, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Before I go into the actual numbers, I have a baseline, I have a yardstick with which to compare the economics of this car. This is not my first C5 X7 Tourer. This replaced a 1.6 litre diesel. This is a 2 litre diesel. And that's the only difference. The engine, the trim level, this is exclusive trim. The other one I think was VTR Plus, which means this has fancy trick suspension. And of course also because the other one was grey and this one's blue, like my hair. So let's start chalking out some numbers. I would have expected this being a 2 litre diesel with 163 horsepower, consuming a lot more fuel than the old 1.6 with only 110 horsepower. Not the case. Both cars, in terms of the ratio of where they've been driven, whether it's motorway, out of town driving and town driving, it is more or less the same. I have no way of actually, I don't have any hard data, I should say, of how many kilometers one did versus the other, but I would guess that it's roughly, I would say it's roughly the same. I keep meticulous records of consumption ever since, I don't know, 2012, something like that. And this car averages 6.3 litres per 100 kilometers. The previous car, 6.21 litres per 100 kilometers. That's 0.09 litres per 100 kilometers difference. It's about 1.5% more that this car consumes. Hello, horsey. Horse. So that's fuel consumption. No point in talking about the prices because prices have been more fickle in the last year than a politician's promises. So what are the other more important costs? Well, two main things, service and maintenance. So you might wonder what they are because you might not be familiar with the terms or English might not be your first language. Service are things that are mostly on a schedule. So every so-and-so kilometers or every so-and-so months or years. So oil, filters, timing belts, that sort of thing. But also things like tyres and wiper blades, because they will wear out. It doesn't matter. It might be the most reliable Japanese car. That will still have to be replaced and that will cost you money. And then there's maintenance. So maintenance are things that are not on a schedule. Unforeseen breakdowns, basically. So service. I was forced to buy 2 new tyres because the other ones were worn out and they wouldn't pass an inspection. And 2 services, 2 oil and filter changes and such. The first one including the timing belt. So I go to a Citroen specialist. So in theory, it's a little bit more expensive than it would be at a corner mechanic, but it's well worth it, especially because this car uses Citroen's very own trick hydropneumatic suspension, or Hdi Citroen. God, it's hot in here. As for maintenance, I spent 1,300 euros this year. Well, 1,294 if I was going to be very pedantic. But big reason for that is when I bought the car, the left front shock absorber was leaking. So that had to be replaced. And then, of course, these things happen. If one is on the way out, then the other one probably is. And that's what happened. So I ended up replacing the other one. The total was 1,100 euros. 1,100 euros on just one type of repair. I think the technical term is expensive as... So if I were to take away this major breakdown, which by the way, this was something that was already on the car when I bought it, and when you buy second-hand cars, usually there is something wrong with it. That's normal and something you have to fix. Then I would have spent, and I've done the maths here, only 194 euros on maintenance on a second-hand car that's 12 years old. That's pretty good. All I had to do was, I remember, was unyellow the front headlamps. I had to replace a couple of hinges on the passenger side, both front and rear. There are videos on that on all this, by the way. And also the motor in the passenger side mirror. Not bad. But of course I cannot ignore that cost. That is all part of me living with this car. But how does that compare to the old car? So my old 1.6, I had it for just over 3.5 years. And in all of that time, in maintenance, it cost me 1,750-ish euros. That comes out to an average of 500 euros a year, which, taking into account that this car in 1 year ate up 1,294 euros of my cash, is much, 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 much cheaper. So obviously that begs the question, was it worth it? And the answer is undoubtedly yes, because this is the car I wanted. As much as I absolutely loved that 1.6 HDI, this is much better. Just for the fact it has hydropneumatic suspension. Well worth it. And of course it's not costing me that much more in terms of fuel consumption. I don't care paying more to have what I want. In fact, to be a bit philosophical, that's what life's all about. You don't work just, well, if you're lucky enough, obviously, if you live in one of these countries like I do, where we can actually have some disposable income. You get disposable income so you can get the things you want. This is it. So in terms of paying for itself, you could say, oh, this car owes me X amount of money. It owes me nothing. It's given it back in driving pleasure more than double or triple it's worth. I really like it. So we'll leave it at that, I think. But if we're talking about economics, there is one more comparison I think we should do before ending this video, and that's comparing it with a new car. So to compare this to a brand new car, the one I'm going to use is the C5X. Now you might think, why not the C5 Aircross? Well, that's a full-blown SUV. The C5X is more of a saloon slash estate slash something or other. I think it's more equivalent. A brand new C5X from Citroen in August 2023, the base petrol model will set you back a measly 36,000 euro, nearly 37,000 euros, I should say. To put that into perspective, when compared to what I paid for this car, I could buy a car just like this, lose it, buy another car, lose that car, buy another one like this, lose it, and still buy another one, and have money left over for insurance, basic maintenance, and fuel for the ride home. What I'm trying to say is it's more than 4 times what this car cost. Once you've crunched these kinds of numbers, it's sort of like beggars belief why anyone would spend money on a new car. I mean, I once bought a used car, an old Volvo, and that cost the equivalent of a brand new hatchback, more or less. And I was paying about 2,500 euros a year in finance. So if it was a C5X, goodness knows how much it would be. Unbelievable numbers. Anyway, even those 2,500 euros would be just under double of what this car's maintenance cost in 1 year. So if we put it in comparative terms, this is a bargain. Don't forget, it's not just finance. You also still have to pay for fuel to make the car go, car insurance, road tax, servicing if it's not included, and eventually maintenance because warranties run out. So this suddenly seems like an even better deal. But don't get me wrong, there are many valid reasons for buying new cars, of course. You know, you might just like the feeling of buying a new car. You might like the idea of it being at the peak of its reliability in principle, the peace of mind of warranty, etc. And for example, if you buy a new car to keep for years and years, like my significant other, her car is 29 years old and her mother bought it new in 1994 and it's still going strong, and you can say that it was definitely a worthwhile investment. And also, if it weren't for people buying brand new cars, then I wouldn't have second-hand cars to buy. So thanks for buying them new and taking the hit for me. So if you made it this far, I thank you very much for watching. I hope you noticed the t-shirt, because you can get one just like it at comfortablecar.club. It's not just C5 themed t-shirts, although it is heavy on that side, you know, it's heavy on C5s. But you can also get other types of cars as well. So go and have a look and see if there's something that pleases you. So like, share, subscribe, etc, etc, etc. I hope you enjoyed it, and from the Algarve, I bid you farewell. Yes, I'm on holiday, that's why I've got shorts and such. And it's very hot.